I'd like to call the May 20th special board meeting to order. And could I have a roll call, please, Kelly?
Reagan? Here. Forsythe?
Here.
Lightfoot? Here. Sheridan?
Here.
Smithers?
Here.
Denisha? Here. Perkins? Here. Hall? Here. Fay? Haggard? Webster? Burke? Jeanette? Terminelli? Curran? It's like 14 present.
Thank you, Kelly. I'd entertain a motion for approval of tonight's agenda by Mr. Jeanette, second by Ms. Curran, Mr. Smithers, and Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And we'll move on to presentations of resolutions. Ms. Curran.
I would like to present this resolution authorizing the closure of the New York Labor Trafficking Program grant, accepting a charitable contribution from the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, and authorizing an application for the Northern New York Trafficking Program grant.
And do I have a second? Second by Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Denisha, and Mr. Perkins, and Mr. Reagan. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
For the next one, can you try
You want me to do it on one?
like a roll call?
Do it on this one?
Next one.
Okay, so the next one, we're going to try doing it on this. We have who?
Steve's here if there's any questions on that.
Okay, very good. So Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is for setting a date for a public hearing on proposed local law E for the year 2024, amending local law 2 for the year 2023, setting a policy on acquisition and sale of tax delinquent property in St. Lawrence County.
And do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Curran and Mr. Perkins. Any discussion before we go on to voting with Civic Clerk for the first time ever? Okay, let's give it a whirl.
Was Steve online?
He's right here. Do you want him to speak to us?
Yeah. If he wants to.
Want me to ask you? Mr. Button, did you have some input?
Mr. Chair, if the board is satisfied with the validity and the accuracy of the local law, I'm not sure there's much input that I could put in other than to say that this is in keeping with the recent Hennepin decision and the recent changes that were adopted on April 20th by the state of New York regarding the interim tax foreclosure. This will allow us to come into compliance with that statute.
Thank you, Mr. Button.
Steve, could you briefly explain the timing of this and as it relates to the capture for those properties we may need to address?
I'd be happy to. I don't want to belabor a point that I could actually probably spend the next 2 hours on. But I will say that when the Hennepin decision came down, the state of New York had to scramble very quickly to establish a response bill. And the response bill, as a part of the response bill, it included changes to the ability to assess administrative costs as well as to recover costs necessary by the tax enforcing district to place the property into a saleable condition. Really, in layman's terms, what that means is that by adopting the changes that are proposed in this local law this evening, you'll be able to recover some of the expenses associated with the blighted property program, as well as the enhanced administrative costs. Well, we have a number of properties that are moving forward right now in the foreclosure process. In order to have the administrative fees and costs attached to them, that needs to be completed before July 1st. That's why we're sort of moving in a rapid fashion with respect to the adoption of the changes to the local law.
Does anyone have any questions? Seeing no discussion. I'm gonna do a roll call.
I just put it through, so it should pop up. Did it?
Do you have the voting yet?
Did it pop up?
Okay.
It will appear here in just a moment.
What, did it pop up on your screens? No? It did for you?
Is anyone else anxious about this vote?
Who did not get the pop-up on their screen?
Me? Should I,
But everybody else did? You did?
should I do agenda maybe?
Present voting, can you see everyone?
Is there something else I should hit? Should I go to agenda?
No.
You marked present voting, Kelly. When you check.
Yeah, I did.
I can just call on the ones that haven't voted. I'll just call on them,
Okay,
like out loud.
okay.
Mr. Reagan? Yes. Mr. Hall? It shows that here.
Me? It's you.
No.
I'm a yes too,
All
Kelly.
in favor?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor of the resolution? Good, thank you. Next resolution, Mr. Jeanette. He's still voting. And is there a second by Mr. Denisha, Mr. Perkins, Ms. Curran? Any discussion on the last resolution? All in favor? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. There's no chair's appointment. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call the May 20th Finance Meeting to order. First, I have to call to order and approve the agenda. I get a first by Ms. Curran, second by Mr. Perkins. Need a vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. Moving on to the approval of minutes. May I get an approval for the April 22nd minutes? Ms. Curran, second by Ms. Perkins. May I get a, all in favor? Excellent. Motion carried. Next, we have Mr. Ben Dixon. We have a presentation from the St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce. Sorry about that. There's words, you know, we got it. Do you want to go here, or do you want to be at the podium? So we're all over that way?
Hey, there we go. That's how that works. Hey, good evening. Thank you all for having us here to give an update on our activities recently and where we're going with things. We're really pleased to share with you and this update on the tremendous work that's being done by our passionate staff, 5 of whom are here with us today, and to execute our role as tourism promotion agency for St. Lawrence County, as well as a business support organization. We hope this update, through it, you will have a better understanding of the work that we're doing currently and how the investment that's been made by the legislature in our tourism promotion development is really yielding a tremendous return, not just in occupancy and sales tax revenues, but also in the overall breadth of our economic system, support of our business community, our sustainability, and our quality of life in the county. I'll later speak about how tourism promotion and business development, as the two sides of our organization, really are mutually supportive of each other. And in this presentation, we'll aim to share the extent of those returns that we are realizing with your support. I would note that that support is critical to our robust and strategic programs that we're delivering. Through the legislature's investment, we're leveraging hundreds of thousands of dollars in other funding sources. The I Love New York matching funds are an obvious example. You know, we received $55,000 from there and 55 in match from the county, which enables us to bring that in. But, you know, we also have several other grants which Tiff, our Director of Tourism, will update you on. And I also want to note that the other funds that are provided in the form of the non-matching funds are really critical, just as critical to leveraging and delivering our promotional work as the other state and federal grants. Really, they have specific uses that we're limited to, very specific expenses that we can incur and not incur. And so the funding provided by the county really lays the foundational support for us to capitalize on opportunities to effectively market, promote, and develop our tourism capacity. So we also hope this presentation provides you with information that enables you to speak to your constituents about how we are collectively, the county and the chamber, making strategic and effective investments that result in positive revenue generation, the overall economic strength of the county, its quality of life, tax burden containment, and ultimately the ability to meet the county government's responsibilities to the community. We are definitely partners in this work, and we appreciate your being ambassadors for us in your districts. On that note, I'd like to also express our gratitude to Glenn Webster as our liaison between this board as well as the board of directors of the county chamber. And we appreciate your engagement with the work we're doing, Glenn, and helping to facilitate the partnership. So thank you, Glenn. I hope you all come away from this presentation impressed with the impact of the work we're doing and your investment in it. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come in today and give this update, because it's really important for us to be able to share what we are doing with our constituents. So we really appreciate this opportunity. And so with that big picture expressed, I'll turn the proverbial and literal mic over to Tiff Amo, our Director of Tourism, who is really engaged in all this work, and she will share with you what we're doing and our directions for the year ahead.
Next slide, please. Okay, so with the limited time that we have today, I'm going to cover a few key highlights for what's been happening so far this year and where we're headed in 2024. I'm going to move quick. There's a lot to cover, but we will make this presentation available to you as a PDF. And there's also a packet of information that you received inside of the visitor guide that's got some more detailed info in addition to what I'm sharing on the slides. Next. Okay, so I just want to acknowledge that there are a lot of everyday ongoing efforts that are happening behind the scenes. And some of these things you may occasionally hear about in the monthly reports that you get from Glenn. But it just feels important to let everyone know that just because you might not hear about something in this particular presentation today doesn't mean that it's not important or that we're not doing it. There's just only so much time to cover so many things. So I'm trying to hit you with some new stuff that you haven't already heard about. Next. So the first thing I want to do is just make sure that we're all on the same page when we're talking about what tourism means to St. Lawrence County. Because when I say tourism, what I really mean is sustainable tourism. And the idea that when tourism is done right, that's when it drives responsible, sustainable economic growth. It's not just about packing in as many visitors as we possibly can. It's about making St. Lawrence County a place that people actually want to visit, which in turn establishes it as a place that people want to live, and subsequently a place where business can thrive. So that's kind of what drives all of our tourism missions, is this idea of sustainable tourism. Next. So what does tourism mean to St. Lawrence County? In your packet on pages 2, 3, and 4, you'll find some additional data and numbers in addition to what you see up here. This info comes to us from Empire State Development, I Love New York, and the 2022 Tourism Economics Report. And I just want to note here that a couple of things that stand out is that visitor spending generates more than $10 million in county tax revenue, and more than $55 million in local employment income. And like I said in your packet, there's a bit more detail in there. So I would encourage you to review all of that and check it out. Next slide. So as the tourism promotion agent for the county, how do we apply this data in the real world? Well, for starters, in 2022, tourism generated tax savings were approximately $464 per household in St. Lawrence County. So on top of that, saving money for our residents, we use the numbers to inform all of our marketing efforts in ways that will not only continue to foster tourism spending as we know it, but also we invest in things that we know are going to improve and enrich our quality of life and enhance our local business climate. So what does that look like? That's when we invest in marketing materials to make a good first impression or to market to repeat visitors, we do that with relocation efforts in mind. Our sports tourism initiative that you're all very familiar with, we do that not only to bring in more visitors, but also to improve sports and recreational connections for our local communities. When we invest in our Canadian marketing efforts, we do that to increase international visitation, but also it brings more support to our small businesses year-round. So there's a lot of different things that we look at when we determine what initiatives we want to move forward with. So let's take a look at some of those. Next. So marketing and promotion. Some of our marketing and promotional efforts you may see in local newspapers or on social media, but for the most part, when we're doing our job right, you don't actually see what we're doing because we're trying to bring visitors into St. Lawrence County. Our focus is really statewide throughout the US and also in Canada. And of course, rest assured, you're not seeing it, but it's happening. Next. So our main marketing and promotion efforts usually take the form of print, digital, and out-of-home advertising, which is things like newspapers, magazines. We're in some hunting and fishing guides, regional guides, online magazines, social media. We post events to the I Love New York website. And we've also been featured on billboards, airport kiosks. We're in baggage claim at Ogdensburg International Airport. So I'll show you some examples of those now. Next slide. So here you can see a few examples of our print advertising that we've been running this year. So on the left, you'll see an ad from the Central New York Summer Visitor Guide. In the middle, this is an ad that we used in fishing and hunting guides in Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Vermont. And the last ad we've used in a few different places, and you'll actually see it in the visitor guide that you've got today. Next slide, please. Here we've got a few examples of our digital advertising. The snowmobile ad was actually featured in an email marketing campaign from Snowgoer Magazine. And then the banners to the right, those are banners that we actually use in North Country now, and we update and refresh them regularly just to keep residents kind of in the loop so that they're always keeping us in mind as a resource and so that they know when their friends and family come to visit, they know where to tell them to go to look for cool things to do. Next slide, please. So the out-of-home advertising, on the left, you'll see a printed kiosk ad. That's what appears at the Plattsburgh Airport. It's actually in French because that's part of our Canadian marketing effort. We've also shared here with you the digital billboard display that was featured in Toronto. It was part of a magazine ad package. And then also the wall mount display that's in baggage claim at the Ogdensburg Airport. So just a few examples kind of the things, some of them you may have seen, others you may never see. Next slide, please. So collateral. So we've brought our brand new visitor guides and our brand new waterfall guides, I believe. So you've got those in hand. We printed and ordered 10,000 visitor guides. We also helped print 5,000 multi-use trail ATV maps. The most important thing is basically that we work very hard to update these things and to keep them fresh and to keep them accurate. And we also want to make sure that it falls into the right hands. So the distribution of these printed materials is very important for us. We partner with local businesses, like I said, to make sure that our residents know that we're here as a resource for them. But we're also working really hard. Laura's working hard on getting our visitor guides onto Fort Drum, into the barracks. Katie's been working very hard to get our guides onto university campuses. So we're always looking for new opportunities, and we're also going to be, starting in the summer, distributing at all the visitor centers and along the highways and things like that. That's something we would have liked to do a little earlier, but it took us a little while to get everything printed and produce a lot of guides. Next. In terms of the website, my favorite area, it's still working hard for us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You'll see the chart here, basically showing, so a trend going upward up until 2023, that's a whole year's worth of traffic. When you get to 2024, that's just until May. So we are planning to set a record this year and to continue the trend upward. Catherine and I are always on the website, adding new pages, updating content. We've got some itineraries and getaway content in progress, and we're also working hard to build out our photo and video library to keep the content fresh and engaging for online users. Next slide, please. In terms of email and social media, that's Katie's wheelhouse, and she's been working her magic on the email and social media front. She sends out a monthly tourism newsletter every month, and it reaches approximately 4,800 contacts. Our average click-through rate for those emails is more than double the industry average. So we have an excellent click-through rate for those. Thank you, Katie. And in terms of social media, we've been working hard to increase our engagement on existing platforms. Our Facebook profile alone, the visits have increased by 21.2%, reaching 83,000 visits, and that's just from January to May. So that's up 21.2% from this time last year, just from January to May. So that's when Katie started in January. So there's more details on this as well. If you look in your packet, you can find some more specifics, a few more things to go along with this. Next slide. So I'm going to cover this topic of connectivity and partnerships specifically from the tourism angle, but I want to note that our chamber team is always representing for tourism. There's a number of crucial partnerships that span both the tourism and the chamber realms, and I'm going to let Ben speak to those a little bit shortly. So this is strictly from a tourism perspective. Next slide, please. So our tourism conferences and summits. For the tourism team, this is essentially a mix of staff training, industry networking, and a county marketing promotion all rolled into one. So the New York State Tourism Industry Association has an annual conference, and Catherine and I just attended in April. It was in Niagara Falls. It was a great place for us to find out what's going on in the industry statewide from a bigger picture perspective, but it was also a great place to network with other tourism promotion agents, kind of see what they're doing, what's working for them, what's not working for them, and it also connected us with vendors. So all these grants that we're executing, they often require multiple bids. We get a lot of those bids from vendors who we meet at NYSTIA. So that's a really great conference for us. We also attended the Northern New York Tourism Summit in Akwesasne, which was really great because that was really our regional Northern New York TPAs, but then also in partnering with Akwesasne. And there were a lot of really great Canadian tourism partners that that we're hoping to forge relationships with. I was also able to speak on the panel there, so that was really cool. And then finally, so there's another NYSEA Tourism annual awards meeting. So Catherine and I are planning to attend that in Saratoga Springs and just continue learning and making sure that what we're doing in St. Lawrence County is on par with what everyone else is doing statewide. Next slide, please. So our I Love New York participation really extends beyond just the matching funds program. In partnering with them, we get insights into what's happening in tourism across New York State, and it helps us align our marketing strategy with what the state is doing where it's applicable. So we take advantage of a lot of collaborative marketing opportunities, like we can submit events to their calendar, we submit attractions and entertainment listings, and it's also really cool. I'm sure you're all familiar with the fall foliage reporting. We are literally on the map. We report, we have several different partners throughout St. Lawrence County, and they report for us. So that puts us on the map, and they get millions of views on that page. So it's a very beneficial partnership to us. Next slide, please. Trade show attendance is a huge one for us. We've been able to partner with for more than 9 trade shows thus far this year throughout New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. There's an entire list in your packet with the who, what, where, and when for all of those details. And I have included a picture here from the Ottawa Travel and Vacation Show. Myself, Laura, and Amanda, who's not here with us tonight, attended the event alongside with partners from the Fort de la Presentation, the Frederick Remington Museum, and the Seaway Visitor Center at Eisenhower Lock. So that was a really great show to get our materials in front of that Canadian market. Next slide, please. So special event support. So there's only 3 events listed here today, but obviously you all know that we manage far more than that. This is just a small sampling. So what I want to really note here is that the work that goes into our event promotion is mostly behind the scenes, right? So Catherine Paleo is our tourism and events manager, and I don't know how she even counts the hours that she spends helping other event planners in St. Lawrence County pull off successful events, but she is an excellent resource to anyone in St. Lawrence County who's looking to host, plan, any questions about events. So on top of maintaining our event calendar and coordinating larger tourism-related events, she's constantly offering guidance in person, by phone, email, Zoom, you name it. But for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to touch on this little sampling of these 3 kind of unique events. Next slide, please. So the total eclipse, you're probably totally sick of hearing about it, but there's still a little bit more work to be done here. There's a wrap-up report that we're working on, so keep an eye out for that in the very near future. We'll send that through to Glenn, and he can share that with you guys. Next slide, please. So the 250th USA commemoration, I've been working closely with the county historian and legislator Reagan to get the promotional ball rolling on this one. We've got a logo getting finalized, and I'm also working on a marketing plan and a budget, which I hope to present as one of those special projects for additional funding in the very near future. Next slide. Bass fishing tournaments. So this is another big one that Catherine has hit the ground running with in terms of promotion. She's currently working on coordinating an outdoor sports showcase to go with the Bass Elite Series. It's going to be family friendly. It should be really cool. Catherine and Laura are also teaming up for our sponsorship of the Bass Nation Regional Tournament. That's going to be in Ogdensburg in September. And Catherine is always promoting all kinds of different fishing events across the county through our online event calendar and coordinating with partners like Fish Messina, Black Lake Chamber of Commerce. Anybody who's got anything going on with fishing, you let Catherine know and she will get the word out. Next slide, please. That brings us to grant projects, which I know you're all pretty familiar with because you get those updates in the monthly reports, so I won't spend too much time on all the details here. But what I really want to note is that we're finally coming to a point where things are really going to take off. A lot of the work thus far has been behind the scenes, a lot of internal calls, meetings, spreadsheets, drafts, but we're looking forward to seeing some of those efforts come to life here in the next few months. Next slide. So in terms of sport tourism, we're wrapping up the discovery phase. The design phase is commencing on Wednesday. We're going to have an internal presentation of the strategic framework for the whole initiative, so it's huge. I'm very excited for that. And we're also going to have one of our sports consultants here in St. Lawrence County later in June. So stay tuned for some updates on that because you'll be receiving an invite to join us. Next slide, please. In terms of the Canadian marketing efforts underway, so again, you're kind of familiar with these. A lot of the work has been behind the scenes thus far, but we're looking to kick off our summer campaign with some actual ads that are going to be going out. We've been working on building out some itineraries that are going to be published to our website and promoted to that Canadian market. So that's going to be really exciting to see. Next slide, please. And that brings us to our booking platform, which you should all be very familiar with by now. You've been hearing about this for like the last year. The most important thing that I want to say about this is that it's not just the booking platform as like a piece of software that we've been working on. It's the bigger picture for accommodation and lodging in general. So I just want to note that we are monitoring legislation that can potentially affect short-term accommodation here in St. Lawrence County, and we're trying to stay in touch with the county to keep them informed of any updates that we get on that. And there's also a lot of opportunities with this booking platform to create collaboration between all of the other grant opportunities that we have. So it's there, it's doing its job, but we're really putting this to use as more than just, the online piece of the website. Next slide, please. So that brings us to our future projects and what's ahead for the rest of the year. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of ideas for future projects. The ideas are boundless, the suggestions are endless, but these are kind of the areas that we've been looking at, keeping in mind that idea of sustainable tourism, right? So the one thing that all of these projects here have in common is that they will all contribute to our mission to promote sustainable tourism that not only brings visitors, but that improves the quality of life and the business climate. That is our goal with tourism, with everything that we do. So some of those ideas that you may be seeing a proposal for special projects are improving our visitor center, making it more welcoming for visitors, maybe including some merchandise in there for them. We're designing a new rack card suite that'll make it easier for us to kind of hand out, different at different events, things on like ATV trails, snowmobiling, more individualized rack cards. We're also working hard on building out some itineraries. We've taken a look at updating the multi-use trail maps to make those a little bit more in-depth. We're also looking at getting on the map for group tours. We've started those discussions quite a while ago. Akwesasne is a big partner for us, and that summit that we went to is kind of a motivating factor there for us. So there's all kinds of different projects, but we are always keeping in mind sustainable tourism. So with that, I'm gonna bring Ben back over to bring it all kind of full circle for you guys.
Okay, I think we've probably about beat up our time allocation with you guys, so I'll just kind of go, just make a few just closing thoughts here. So can I get the next slide, please? And that's the big point I'd just like to make is that I think the fact that we're the tourism promotion agent and a business member organization, there's a lot of good synergy that happens between those aspects of our business, our work and our operations. I mean, it's a vital business climate is critical to attracting tourists and driving the tourist experience so that they'll come back, so that they'll think about relocating here. It's all connected from an economic, systemic perspective. There's a lot of shared service that happens between those two areas. The things that we're doing to help support our businesses on one side are helping our work on the tourism side. Great example, Katie here is our new communications specialist and our Canton representative. representative, and she's putting out those fabulous tourism-related electronic newsletters that you're seeing. And so it's this fusion of the business support and the tourism that I think really makes it work for us. So I just wanted to point that out. Even our websites are connected and operating off the same website platform. So I guess the other thing I'd just note is that, a big focus this year was the integration of the Canton, Ogdensburg, and Messina chambers with the St. Lawrence County Chamber. That became effective on January 1st, officially with the approval of the Department of State. And we also have a lot of new staff. We've had a lot of turnover, got a great new staff, brought a lot of new people on board. And so this has really been a year of transition and change and building capacity. So with that, I think I'll just put out there that we're happy to chat tourism, and I hope that your big takeaway from the presentation that Tiff shared is that we have a ton of stuff going on the tourism front. We're working really hard round the clock to bring people into St. Lawrence County, both from the perspective of bringing in visitors to support our economy, as well as thinking about relocation and workforce and entrepreneurship and all those things. So if you have questions and want to chat about the things we've got going, give us a holler.
I would just like to thank Ben and Tiff and the rest of the crew over there. They're very professional. They do a great job. They work very hard. It's interesting to sit there and listen to some of their ideas at the meetings and stuff. I think they're doing a great job, and I hope you keep it up.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Straight.
Thank you, and I just want to thank Ben and Tiff and the rest of the staff for the great job they're doing. They're always very responsive, and I just saw Laura the other day. She was visiting all the businesses in Ogdensburg. Thank you for that. I think it's important to note when we look at the money invested in the Tourism Promotion Agency, the county chamber, that when you compare against what's being spent by our competitors, we're competing with Franklin County, with Clinton County, with Oswego County. We invest $329,000 into the county chamber. Franklin County invests over $900,000. Essex County invests $3.6 million. Jefferson County invests $1.2 million. The Oswego invests over $700,000, and Clinton County over $600,000. So I think for the bang for the buck for what we're getting, we're getting a lot, and Ben and his staff are doing a lot of exciting things, and their new people are really providing a lot of help in getting the county tourism agency more into the next century in terms of tourism promotion efforts on the web, digitally, and a host of ways versus the old ways of doing things. And we're very lucky to have some bright young people who understand how to do these things, how to do social media, how to do the digital. And meanwhile, we've got people with boots on the ground who are not afraid to roll up their sleeves and make things happen, like Laura. And so I just want to thank you guys for your hard work. And you know, I think it's important to realize that we're seeing more and more bed and breakfasts and Airbnbs popping up all across the county, and that is helping to build our local economy by helping small mom and pops turn their properties into an income generator, a sales tax generator, a bed tax generator. And it wouldn't be happening if we didn't have the county chamber and the leadership that we've seen today. So take the time to read through the magazine and the other information that they've distributed. I think, you know, they're doing a lot of exciting things, so thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kern?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I mean, you've done a lot of work in the last year and a half with the fishing situation and different organizations that are working towards that. And they have actually called me and said, hey, you know what, like, we really appreciate what's going on with the Chamber of Commerce. You know, it's helping us. We're going here, we're going there. I know Fish Messina is doing some of your PR work at these different trade shows, and I think that that's wonderful. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I really love this. For somebody
It's very
who's-
popular.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Great.
Mr. Fay?
I'd just like to say, I think the combining the local chamber of commerce is all into the St. Lawrence County one. I think that's the best move I've heard us do.
Anyone else?
Well, thank you all for that great feedback and for the support, and we'll keep cranking away to keep doing good things for the county and promote it to our best of our ability. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have County Attorney Steve Button joining us. There he is. So this resolution is for authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Jada Environmental Services for the removal of subsurface bulk tanks on property owned by Eleanor M. Mallett. First, Mallett, thank you. Ms. Curran, second by Mr. Perkins, thank you. Mr. Button.
Thank you. The resolution you have before you is to remove bulk tanks that were identified as a part of Phase 2 in the property owned by Eleanor Millette. It's on State Highway 3 in Pitcairn. This is not to be confused with our blighted property program. This is part of the environmental contamination program. In doing the Phase 2, we were unable to identify any contaminants on the sides or periphery of the bulk tank. That does not mean that we have ruled out yet that there are contaminants in the soil. That means that in order to check underneath the tanks, we've got to get to the tanks and get them removed. So authorization for this resolution would provide the chair with the ability to sign the agreement with Jetta so that we could go ahead and get those tanks out of the ground.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Steve? Mr. Smithers?
Yeah, Steve, what about the cost of this? Is this going to be reimbursed by the state in part or total? Any ideas on that?
With respect to removal of the tank, it will not be. If we identify that there are contaminants in the soil underneath the tank, then we can seek to have an agreement with the DEC and the oil spill fund, much like we traditionally do with our environmentally contaminated. But at the moment, this resolution would be, the costs at least associated with the removal of the tank would be borne by the county.
Anyone else? No, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Next, we have the treasurer, Ms. Cole. Oh, we do not. We have her today. We have the deputy treasurer, Emily Wilson. Hi. So this resolution is for adopting the mortgage tax report. First by Mr. Denisha, second by Mr. Perkins. Thank you.
Hello.
So this is a semi-annual resolution that allows the treasurer's office to distribute monies collected by the county clerk that are due to the towns. The county clerk turns over the funds to our office monthly, and then twice per year, the county clerk submits a report to the state for approval. Upon approval from the state, we submit a resolution for your adoption. This amount represents the October 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024 time period. As a reference for comparison, this year is 446, 358.06 for the first payment. Last year's first payment was 486,531.83. Thank you.
I'm just curious, how is this figured as to how much to charge each municipality? Because there's quite a lot of difference in what some of the towns are assessed for. Like the town of Canton is over 66,000, and like the town of Gouverneur is just under 12,000. So how do you compute that?
So I think that would be more of a question for the county clerk's office. We do the processing on our office for the deposit part of it, but they do that.
My understanding is, and we can certainly clarify this, this is based on the mortgages filed in those municipalities.
Right.
Any other questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Resolution passed. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Highway with John Chambers. First resolution I have is for authorizing the chair to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the Jefferson, Lewis, Hamilton, Hermicker, Oneida Board of Cooperative Educational Services for drug and alcohol testing. Your motion, Ms. Curran, second by Ms. Perkins. Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, thank you very much. Under federal statute, commercial drivers must be tested for drug and alcohol through the program, and that has to be done by a outside party. So the BOCES provides the services to the school districts and multiple municipalities within the county that provides us that degree of separation between doing the testing ourselves and providing that information. So they provide an individual that comes to our site, collects the samples, and sends them to a laboratory for independent evaluation. So they actually even set up the random sampling. So this is a total hands-off as it's supposed to be under federal statute, and provides us the results that we need.
Yeah, Don, on this resolution, it has an estimated cost of approximately $5, comma, and 4 zeros. So what is that figure supposed to be?
My apologies, that should be 5,000, not that erroneous number. So it's approximately 5,000. And that will vary because we have to do pre-employment testing, so it depends on the number of tests that we perform. But $5,000 is the more accurate number.
Thank you.
Yes, approximately half the staff on an annual basis.
Anyone else? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have modifying the 2024 budget for the Department of Highways for bridge projects. Thank you, Ms. Curran. Second by Mr. Perkins. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Bringing this resolution forward to modify the budget rather for bridges rather than cutting, say, paving projects or whatever and transferring funds. This will maintain the project load that we currently have. One of the issues that was unforeseen, for example, was on the Browns Falls Road Bridge in the town of Fine. The easements that were drawn and that were in our files showed that the utility lines were within easements that were controlled by the county. However, when the structure was built, the deeds were never filed.
So therefore, the county needs to pay National Grid up to around $140,000 to move utility lines that run diagonally across over the bridge that would stop us from using a crane. So that's one unforeseen cost. The Line Road project, Lisbon, Oswegatchie line, that project came in at more than we expected, and I think that's due to the workload of contractors in the area. I think having difficulties, and the bid came in higher than estimated. So, and the other project that this will really be dealing with will be the possibility of the Thule Pond Road bridge that we've put in for funding. This will cover most of the local costs that would be associated with the total construction of the project. So really three bridges that it's going to help move along. Also, Buck Road is a project we're working on. So right now, just for update, if I can, on bridges, we do have 3 currently under construction at this point. Buck Road in Waddington, we have Lacey River Road, and we have County Road 35. So we currently have 3 under construction right at this moment.
Thank you. Mr. Smithers.
Don, so this is a request for an additional $590,000. What were we originally budgeting for? Is this for these 3 bridge projects that you mentioned, or is this additional?
I believe we were close to the 2 million mark, but I can certainly get you the
So it's like 25% increase?
Yes, but like I said, about 150 of that is for, design work on Thule Pond, which was not anticipated in the budget. Then the electrical work that was totally unforeseen of 140,000. So a lot of this is for items that weren't even really anticipated to be part of a project or a project.
Previously, you've mentioned the state budget for this year that was passed. So how much of a factor is the state budget? Are we getting less from the state for these projects, or what's the state doing to us there?
The CHIPS formula stayed flat. There, no decrease, no increase for this year.
And the material cost has gone up quite significantly.
In the last, what we were looking at in March, according to our association, in 30 months period, there was a 58% increase.
Anyone else? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Sticking with Mr. Chambers for solid waste, this next resolution is for approving the supplemental agreement number 1 with Barton and Lojudas. All right. DPC for engineering services for Governor Transfer Station Improvement Project. I get it. Mr. Perkins, Nisha, thank you, this side of the room.
Yes, this agreement is for a supplementary agreement with Barton Judas. The rehabilitation project that's going on in Governor, well, we plan to go on in Governor, will address the scale, putting in a new scale, putting in a new foundation that holds the crane, the compactor for the Governor Transfer Station. We did go out for bid, received no bids this past week, and we will be putting this item back out for bid again, hoping to secure some bidders.
Any discussion? Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a building at the end of this scale plan?
This, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Forsythe. Actually, the scale will be exactly in the same location that it is now. However, it will be extended on one end to accommodate trucks with trailers. Currently, the scales do not meet state standard for weighing in those pickup trucks with trailers.
So will you have to shut down for a little while?
We will have some shutdowns while we do that, but the plan is to have a temporary scale set up parallel with the existing and then switch over. But there will be periods of disruption, and we plan to have a 2-week notice to users of the facilities that before a shutdown.
If we can find someone to bid.
Correct.
Mr. Smithers.
Yeah, Dave, in Gouverneur, we've always had to park our vehicle, walk over to the house there, and then pay your sign. It's never been at the end of the scale like it has been in Ogdensburg, so it's set up a little differently.
Mr. Perkins.
Chairman. Don, you mentioned the scales aren't up to specs, but what will we do with the existing scales?
They are significantly deteriorated. So the scale itself will be disposed of, recycled steel, but we are reusing the load cells. So any component that we can reuse, we are reusing, but it's serious deterioration in the footings and also the structural steel that goes into the scales. So they've served their time.
You sure? You look like you. All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? Yes. Excellent. Motion carried. Next, we have discussion for the direct haul waiver for the city of Ogdensburg with Mr. Chambers.
Yes, thank you. The city of Ogdensburg applied for a reduction in fees to the Development Authority of the North Country. And typically, what would happen is that, DANK, the municipality working on the demolition project where they would need get a discount, would communicate and provide that information ahead of time so that we wouldn't be invoicing them for the direct haul fee. The materials are not coming through the transfer station, however, they go to the Development Authority of the North Country, hit the scales. Development Authority of the North Country sends back a notice to us that, hey, there's a direct haul coming through, and then we assess the fee to that vendor that utilized the landfill. So typically, if we know ahead of time, that would have never been invoiced because we've all would have communicated. But I think, if that could have been done, I wouldn't be coming here asking to basically amend, an invoice that has been sent out to the city of Ogdensburg for over $7,100. So normally we would waive that with a demolition project that has been applied for a waiver or a reduction in tip fee. This facility that is being demolished is the St. Lawrence Foods in the city of Ogdensburg. So there is state funding that the city has applied for and is utilizing toward this demolition. And as I said, typically, we would be waiving that fee to help the municipalities clean up facilities. So that's what I'm asking, if it's, basically to get the board's at least blessing to have that pulled out of our accounting system and done away with. Yes, it would be, the tip fee for the direct haul is typically $13, so that's the fee that would be waived. So otherwise, it's a $13 fee for direct haul.
Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how far are they through that project right now?
I am not sure how far
think they're really far.
they're not done. And there's also would be on the next month's
a
billings.
continuation.
There's going to be a continuation, so I'd like, like I said, I'd like
problem.
Mr. Reducia, do you have anything?
believe Mr. Chambers is really looking to make sure there's no objection to adjusting the invoice that would allow for what we grant to other municipalities across the county. The only difference here was there wasn't notice provided ahead of time. That's why he's bringing it to you at this time. Generally speaking, when we're able to work with the municipalities, this is waived, and so we would be granting a similar situation just on the backside and for any hauls going forward until the project's complete.
Thank you, Ruth.
Any discussions, objections? Get on our end.
Yes. And as you knew, my new deputy director of solid waste started. However, she's away at conference and getting some training at the statewide conference this week. So she will be returning, and I will have her here when we're doing other solid waste resolutions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Vacancy Review Committee with fabulous Mrs. Doyle.
So the last resolution, or last vacancy to be considered tonight, our Deputy Treasurer, Emily Wilson, is going to come back up. I did just want to mention for you in looking at, I usually spend the first committee, whether it's combined or individual, giving you the statistics of where we are. I wanted to take a look and continue to keep you updated on the resolutions that you're approving. And so far this year, the average per meeting that you take up in the grid that you see that approves and then in the be it further resolved abolishes positions, you're averaging 11 fills per month, and we're averaging 3.8 being abolished per month at this time in the year. And there are a total now, with the exception of the ones I'll talk about under County Administrator's report, of 78 open positions as of the beginning of this month. So that's a little bit lower than we're used to seeing, but just like to make sure that you're aware. Certainly you hear from departments often about difficulties of filling, difficulties of hiring contractors, different things. So I want to make sure you know where we are with our workforce. That being said, one, abolish and create for the Treasurer's Office. Emily, go ahead.
Thank you. So this is an abolish an account clerk for us and create a principal account clerk. The changes that contained in the 2024 enacted state budget related to the NREM foreclosure process will have direct impact on how our office manages the results of the annual tax sale that we do. And the NREM reforms set out a process for defining and distributing surplus. We have had to initiate new internal procedures for collecting, reconciling, and reporting on surplus funds, as well as setting aside the surplus in an escrow account. New law requires additional financial reporting to the courts and follow-up on the escrow and eventual claim processes for these funds. There is potential new banking requirements should the court return the funds with an order to create court and trust accounts. Our office handles and reports to New York State on the court and trust accounts annually. There is also additional reporting and communication to the New York State Homeowners Protection Program that is required. We are optimistic that the upgrade to this position will allow us to meet the enhanced accounting and reporting requirements brought on by this change in the law. Additional accounting duties for this upgrade will also include the audit of countywide daily cash receipts report prepared by lower level staff in the Treasurer's Office. This is a critical step prior to posting to the general ledger. This position will also be fully trained on the fines and surcharges program, enabling us to have a backup and coverage for this important function. This position will maintain our internal database for certificate of residence to assist the senior fiscal officer in managing and reporting for this program.
Questions?
Mr. Smithers.
This is probably for you, Ruth. You have net county cost, but that's based on the person leaving, correct, with the benefits. But the new position is going to be at a higher salary, grade 21. So it'll be, what, about 7,000 more than that because there's no reimbursement. So the net county cost will be more like 65,000, right?
That's the overall total. You mean the
Yeah,
amount in the
with
budget?
the benefits
It'll be a little
and
bit
the
more
salary.
expensive, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Other questions? Okay, thank you, Emily.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
So the update on the American Rescue Plan Act, we're continuing to get information. I have a packet for you. On Friday, I was able to meet in Syracuse with the County Administrators Association as a branch of NISAC. And they've extracted from the interim final rule the specific information surrounding obligation. Because between all of your municipalities, the county funds, all of those involved with receiving ARPA funds are going to continue to grow concerned with the spend down. And so in that way, they've extrapolated the language associated with obligation, because that seems to be the area where they have not really pinned down. And I can't tell you they've done a terrific job in the 12 pages I'm going to share with you, but at least it's more information about what they qualify as obligated funds, which are required by the end of this year. So I have that information to share with you. I believe that we are in very good shape. We're going to meet again with the group to go over that, to get an updated spend. Also want to spend a little more time and get that updated on the website so that the public can see where we are with our spend so far, and be able to bring you an update on that total in June. Any questions on ARPA right now? Okay. So moving on, under County Administrator's Report, if I can. We'll do the resolutions first.
Absolutely. This resolution is for, yep, proclaiming June as Dairy Month for the annual St. Lawrence County Dairy Festival Days. The theme is Get Moving with Milk. Mr. Nisha, second by Mr. Perkins. Thank you. You guys are terrible.
So this resolution has some updated information for you. As you'll recall, last year, we had an opportunity to recognize the farms in St. Lawrence County. They've been noted here that we have, I believe, over 18 family-owned farms still in business beyond the centenarian, 100 years, in St. Lawrence County. So just, again, looking to recognize June as Dairy Month, and enjoy that their theme this year is Get Moving with Milk.
Moving.
Oh, sorry.
Moving.
With milk.
Absolutely.
Questions?
Ms. Kerr.
I would like to be added as a co-sponsor if I could, please.
Sure.
Mr. Webster. Boom, nice. I like it. Well done.
Move.
Really shook it up there, that milk joke.
Why not? Shake it up.
Anyone else? I think Ms. Haggard wants to, she looks like she will.
No, I was just very impressed with your move.
All those in favor with moving with milk? Opposed? Excellent, thank you. Next, we have establishing a standard workday for the New York State retirement system for reporting purposes. Can we get a motion, Ms. Kura, Ms. Perkins, thank you.
So this resolution you've become familiar with. It typically is passed in the first few months of the legislature's term, of which elected officials can use their retirement log for 2 terms, 2 consecutive terms, or they can submit a new one. So here we have our newly elected sheriff and our re-elected county clerk. This will be posted, once adopted, on the website for, I believe it's 30 days, Kelly? Questions?
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, and then just a couple of updates for you. We have now closed the applicant period for the new deputy clerk position that you've approved. We have 34 applicants, so very excited, and some terrific talent included in our applicant pool, both internal and external candidates. So we'll credential those and get those interviews going and scheduled. Speaking of, our public health interviews for the director are scheduled for this Thursday. We have 4 that will be interviewed. And our hope is once we finish those that we'll be able to narrow the group to a couple that we will have physical on-site interviews. There are some that are from out of the area. We're giving folks the option for the first round of interviews to either join us electronically or come in person. But the second round will certainly be in person and hopefully an opportunity to meet with the staff, much like we did in the commissioner's search. For the Human Resources Director, we have 15 candidates who've submitted, and that period has also closed, so those are being credentialed now. The next you'll hear will be when those interviews are scheduled. We have 6 staff this week, including my assistant administrator, who are in Indiana attending the Tyler Munis Conference. We are sending an additional programmer there this year to learn and hopefully be able to employ some of the strategies that Tyler is sharing when they return next week. HR is there, our treasurer's office, that is why our treasurer is not here tonight, and deputy treasurer. They'll be attending for this week. As a reminder, next month, I'm attending the Government Finance Officers Association with our treasurer. That's in early June. Did want to tell you that the Board of Elections is supporting and assisting 11 school districts. They've been deploying their machines for them to be used for the school district budget votes scheduled for tomorrow. Our Buildings and Grounds Committee will meet this Wednesday. Our standing committee meeting, I believe, and certainly the chair and members could agree or disagree, has been very helpful in continuing to understand where our projects are, the issues that arise while you're doing capital projects, and being able to address them in a manner that's very timely to keep the projects moving forward. But to that end, also would like to discuss with that group an opportunity to have tours planned. As I mentioned to you last time, we're going to have the BOCES group come in, but would really like an opportunity for you to see the progress being made. I would like to share it with our department heads, and then certainly the opportunity for our inconvenienced Pearl Street residents to have a tour and see the progress as well. They've been extremely tolerant of us closing the end of their street, so we'd certainly like them to understand where we are and how the project's going. So that will be upcoming this week when we meet. I do want to thank you also for considering the Highway Department resolution tonight to maintain our strategy and plans for the 2024 budget. It is critical, I think, when we look at the investment the board's made earlier this year in an additional $5 million of county cost for paving to be completed, that we maintain our bridges as well. If, in fact, we were not able to move forward in the fashion that you approved tonight, we would be looking at reducing that budget, reducing the work, and falling further behind on our bridge inventory and our bridge maintenance. So very much appreciate your support on that as we move forward. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I must say the timing was pretty good of the extra $5 million in sales tax for April. It made my decision a lot easier for sure on funding the bridge. So just an anomaly. Do we really garnish that down where that generated from, the extra $5?
I think the treasurer's had some conversations with tax and finance, so we can talk more about that.
Okay.
Didn't we get an email explaining that there was some big payment that was
One catch
like for
up.
a whole year's time? It was quite a lot.
Yeah, it was quite a lot, but I just never heard of it happening before. And
Me either.
it was just,
Nor is that same individual current.
Anything else for?
No. Any other questions?
All right, moving
Okay.
on. Next, we have the committee reports. First up, we have Mr. Nisha with the Cornell Cooperative Extension Board.
Mr. Chair, I have nothing to report since my last report, but we are meeting this Thursday evening.
This Thursday?
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent. Next, we have Mr. Sheridan with the Fish and Wildlife Management Board of Region 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't meet again until June 20th, but I do have an update on the Black Lake boat launch. On December 20th, the chairman of the Region 6 Fish and Wildlife sent out a letter to the New York State Parks and Rec Director regarding the Black Lake boat launch. And it strongly urged the Parks and Recreation reprioritize the Black Lake boat launch in a nutshell. And the conversations I've had with Senator Walznick's office, who they're also very interested in this project, and also Senator Gray is very interested as well. They did say, when I've talked to them, because I've been wondering where the response has been since all this time, said that they did in fact receive the letter that was sent out from the parks or from Alvin Montana, who's the chairman of our Region 6. So we had some back and forth, and over the last couple of months, Walznick's office has actually been talking to this Peyton Taylor, who's the head of the Parks and Rec, and they indicated to them and Walznick's office that they've never heard of Alvin Montana, who's our Region 6 chairman. So, so we've been trying to get to the bottom of that. I called Alvin this morning to get right from the horse's mouth what's going on. And he said he did in fact send it out December 20th. Well, that's a long time from now. Or for, you know, at this point, December 20th, I would have expected would have had an answer. So he said he'd check into it. So this is the response I got back. He texted me this morning, right after our conversation. He said, I have talked with the New York State Parks, and the mailing address we had when we sent out the letter was wrong, and that that's probably why they did not get it. I'm currently waiting to get the email to them, and hopefully we will get a response ASAP. So that explains the delay. Chairman asked about it a couple weeks ago, so hopefully by December 20th, we'll have an answer or a letter on that issue.
Excellent, thank you. Next, we have Fisheries Advisory Board with Ms. Terminelli.
Thank you. We met last on April 23rd, and Jana Langtree joined us from Region 6 DEC, so we had quite the update on some of our fisheries. Michael Seymour, one of our members, he was recognized at a dinner in Canastota. He was inducted into the New York State Outdoors Hall of Fame, so we kind of celebrated him a bit. As far as fisheries go, we talked about the Adirondack Brook Pond Management Plan. It was first written in 1979, so they're actually revisiting it to do some updates to the draft. There'll be 2 public meetings and a WebEx on that. The DEC is collecting water quality data and species population data. Region 5 and 6 will manage consistently using the plan. They'll use sampling protocols that are consistent across both regions. They'll have public info out there, management plan, and then stocking. And we talked about the fact that Maine and New York are the only 2 states with an abundance of brook trout ponds. Currently, there are 270 waters that are stocked. And the biggest reason that they have to rely on stocking so much is the abundance of acid rain actually impacts the natural reproduction cycle of the trout. So that's why so many of these ponds have to be stocked. We also talked a little bit about the trout stream access verification, and I know that Mr. Sheridan has spoken to us about that before. So these are areas where people need to pass through privately owned land in order to access some of the ponds, streams, lakes that they are stocking with trout. And so instead of stocking all of the waters, if private landowners are not going to allow people to pass through, then they don't want to use the stock in those areas. So I think that last time Mr. Sheridan had updated us, there were 58 private landowners that had not authorized people to be able to pass across their land to get to the streams, that they are still trying to kind of get down to like yes or no, we're gonna allow access, so they know whether or not to stock these ponds. So letters were mailed out, 50% of them were returned, and so they're moving forward with trying to get those responses from people that haven't responded so they can plan for their stocking. We talked a little bit about muskie and northern pike in the St. Lawrence River and a partnership with SUNY ESF for trap nets to just collect and gather some data on those. Black Lake is collecting data on crappie and bass using trap nets and to pull some preliminary reporting for next year. We talked about between March 15th and May 1st every year, fishing between the dam in Ogdensburg and the northern side of Ogdensburg, the Twin Bridges, is actually, you're not allowed to fish there. But every year, people fish there. And so they report it to DEC and they try to get them out of there. So there's a couple of different areas across the county that are traditionally fished during that time when they're not supposed to be. So the DEC is going to be posting some signs in those areas. They'll be putting 5 different signs up. And then we talked a little bit about the acoustic telemetry I've shared with you guys before, where they bring up the data. So just some of the interesting data. There are 177 tagged walleye right now, and in the preliminary tagging from last year's reports, there was 1 from Brandy Brook and 1 from Little Sucker that made their way all the way up to Lake St. Francis. So it's just pretty neat to check where they are going to for spawning or whatever other reason that they're traveling up and down the waterways. And then just, they'll continue to gather that data for 3 years before they actually release a report, because they like 3 years worth of data. And I think that was pretty much it. Our next meeting is on June 25th.
Excellent, thank you. Next, Mr. Smithers, the Governor Fair Board.
Thank you. Yep, they're working, doing some renovations. They tore down an old barn. It's on schedule to be rebuilt before fair time this year. The schedule that I presented before is still pretty much the same as it has been in the past. It's reported that there's many new vendors that are scheduled to appear at the fair this year, food and other items. On the Derby that they had a couple weeks ago, it's been reported that there was an incident that was concerning regarding safety, and that resulted in 2 parties being banned from future attendance or participation in the derbies. And also, we're still on schedule to meet at Fairgrounds July 29th. I haven't confirmed that with Don Peck yet, because I haven't seen him, but I will do that.
Thanks, sir. Sticking with you, what's new with the Highway and Solid Waste Committee?
Well, I don't have anything to report, but I do have a question for Don. In your memo that said on the Governor Transfer Station, where it's going to be closed for a period of time, and they'll be sent to Lisbon and my question is, are they going to come back and say, we want it like it is over at Lisbon, where the house is attached right to the waste station? I mean, this could be a little dangerous.
Well, there is an issue there with trying to construct a permanent scale closer. Behind the retaining wall, that is actually the septic and sewer system for the facility. So putting a scale system in where our sanitary facilities are is rather difficult. Also, as you know, the Governor site is mainly rock. So areas for a septic system are very limited on that footprint, as I'm sure you're aware. So that is the reason why we would not be able to build it closer to the building.
I was just kind of teasing you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent, thank you.
I'll get fun.
Next up, Mr. Ames with Industrial Development Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The IDA met last week. They've been working with with National Grid on a improvement project on the lighting system at the industrial building in Canton that'll bring down the cost of lighting there. BOCES is going to bring a training center, is already working on bringing a training center into the other half of the industrial building in Canton to do training for workforce programs here in the county. The staff recently attended an event in Ottawa to market St. Lawrence County as a place where businesses are welcome. A Messina business, a new craft and things sewing business received a small micro loan of $8,000 to help them expand their operation. They've been a home-based business, but they've been growing. And next week, I hope to have a interesting announcement.
Excellent. Thanks, sir. Next, Mr. Perkins, Recreational and Trails Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trails are open. There's a lot of volunteers doing a lot of work out in the trails. It's still been awful wet. Been a lot of donations on gravel. They've got them stockpiled, ready to put them out there when it dries up. There was a youth ATV safety class held this weekend. There was a first mountain bike recon ride in Russell this weekend. One of the bikes broke down and UTV was able to help them out, bring them out. I actually bought my first pass and went out and rode. It was only about a half hour out on the trail system. The rest of it was on our own property, but I figured I'd better have one just in case we ran into the sheriffs, which we did on our own property. But all the people we saw out there were very courteous. They were driving slow, they were great. It was a great time, and actually one of our machines had broke down, so we were towing that as well. And the sheriffs came through, they were very polite, it was excellent, so.
Nice.
Had a great time.
Good to hear. Thank you. Next, Mr. Forsyth with the St. Lawrence River Valley Redevelopment Agency.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. We met last Tuesday over in Louisville. We approved our audit, which was considered a clean audit for last year. No blurps in it. And we also reviewed the CDEIP applications. There were 9 applicants this year, down a little bit, I guess. And we should have it finalized. It's gone back to review by the IDA, so we should have it early June. We'll have a meeting and we'll make the awards and announcements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Webster, St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce.
There's not much more I can say.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have Mr. Burke for the Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors. Oh, sorry, Ms. Hager.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on Thursday, the 16th. Chair Andrews usually brings us up to date on what's happening at the Farmland Protection Board. And a couple new things. There's a proposed solar project in Norfolk, and I verified this because it kind of took me by surprise. That's going to encompass 3,000 acres. Yeah, it's big. Last time I told you about the methane digester at 310 in the Potsdam-Morley Road. I just wanted to let you know that they're going to need at least 10,000 cows to donate to the methane digester to keep it going because it's such a big facility.
Did you say 10,000?
Yes, 10,000. That's a lot of cows.
Keep it moving.
Okay, moving. Okay, Aaron, the forester, is working with our own Mr. Fotenauer on the planning for the trees from the Nature Conservancy, which is, I told you last time, this is a free thing. We actually could make money by getting paid to do this. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fotenauer, but Jason gave him some areas that would be, that we own, that would be suitable, but we want to figure out how we go about pinpointing those to which ones will be used and how to get permission to do that. So I'm sure it's through a resolution or something like that. There'll be 300 trees planted per acre. We have 2 interns starting on June 3rd, and the IDA is paying for their training, which is great. And let's see. Oh, there was a discussion about the website, and they're looking to make some changes or perhaps have their own in addition to their placement on the county website, but that's just out there for discussion. And we don't have a meeting next month. The next meeting is on July 18th.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did
Appreciate
I
it.
get everything, Mr. Burke?
Just to add that digester on 310, the chairman said it was expected to start construction this summer, and it was a $50 million project.
Is that 15 or 50?
5 all.
Thank you. Moving on, any need for any old business? Any new business? Mr. Forsythe?
I just wanted to make a recognition. Nicole had mentioned earlier Mike Seymour being recognized by the Outdoor Writers Association. You can't get a nicer guy on 2 feet than Mike Seymour. Let me tell you, he's been involved with that organization since it started, I believe. The Hooks and Antlers was his namesake years ago. He's been a good advocate for my facility over the years, and he's just a great representative of the North Country and the outdoors, so.
Anyone else? Is there a need for executive session?
There is for personnel, which is the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and 2 appointments.